Welcome. This is Rabbi Moshe Otero. As we continue the study to be a Jew, as we left off in the signs of the covenant, love and reverence, we already saw the mezuzah. Now we're going to take a look at the Tzitzits and Tallit, which is a commandment in the following passages, which calls for the attachment of fringes, what we call tzitzits, to the four-cornered garment, as a reminder for all the commandments of the Lord. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and bid them that they make them throughout their generations fringes in the corners of their garments, that they put the fringes of each corner a thread of blue. And it shall be unto you for a fringe, that ye may look upon it, and remember all the commandments of the Lord, and do them. And ye shall, and that ye go not about after your own heart and your own eyes, after which ye used to go astray, that ye may remember to do all of my commandments, and be holy unto your God, and I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am the Lord your God. This is found in Numbers, Bamidbar, chapter 15, verse 37 through 41. Garments not possessing four or more garments are not required to have special fringes. It's fascinating, the whole story of how the shirts were changed in order so that they would not have four corners. Of course, these were Jewish tailors that said, we cannot obligate ourselves to these fringes unless it has four corners, the shirts. So they began to making the shirts more of a round circle, thus be exempt from requiring these tzitzits. The observance of the mitzvah is limited to the day because it emphasizes, and you shall look upon them. By the way, this same aspect for the Sephardim, who basically tucks in the tzitzit, when they put it on in the morning, they fulfill the commandment of look upon them at the moment that they wear it, even though it's tucked in. The sages taught that at night, that's when it's pitch darkness, one cannot see the mitzvah of the tzitzits, that is not thus enforced. And this is for the reason why the tallit is never worn in the evening service. Exception is on Yom Kippur for Kol Nidrei services for the extraordinary sanctity of the night. Although in ancient times four-corner garments or robes were common in development of clothing not having four corners, it would render the mitzvah totally obsolete and with full sanction of the law. In other words, because they were changing the way they would wear the shirts, it was no longer four corners. So there was no need to wear a talit or talit katan. In this case, to prevent the total disappearance of this mitzvah, they possess that such a symbolic significance is such that it serves as a reminder to observe all the other commandments, that these sages, listen closely, the sages encourage the wearing of a special made four-cornered garment so as to provide the opportunity to observe and implement this commandment. This is why the only garment that we have, the fringes, is on the talit gadol, the prayer shawl. So that's why you'll find many Sephardim, mainly they don't use talit katan. They'll usually, when they pray in the morning, they will use the talit gadol, and that talit gadol has the tzitzits on it. However, if you buy a talit katan, it normally has the tzitzits on the four corners, and thus, after you say the blessing on it, you can tuck it inside your pants. Not a problem. He should strive to wear a garment that requires the fringes so as to perform this precept during the daytime prayers, and one should have special care to do so. This according to Hilchot Tzitzits, chapter 3, verse 11. The talit, or a four-cornered robe which requires the tzitzits, has thus become the garment traditionally worn by men during the morning prayers. In English, it's commonly known as the prayer shawl. I'm going to show that to you in a second. And before wrapping the talit, one is to hold them while standing and say the following blessing. So I'm going to pull out my talit so you have an idea. Keep in mind, there is what they call a talit katan. The wearing of the talit is primarily during the daytime, which would mean shacharit and mincha, or during the time it's daytime. Now, interesting enough, this is my talit. I love blue. There's all types of colors, white. Some have it different colors, and this is my talit, in which you take the tzitzits, and early in the morning you say the blessing of the tzitzits. By the way, this is a commandment primarily given over to the men. And women are not to wear men's garment. Thus, because of that, they normally do not wear or wrap talit in the morning. However, there was an exception with Rashi's wife, who used to do so in the, you may say, in the home. Now, I'm going to go ahead and say this, that way you understand how this works. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kedishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehitatef b'tzitzit. Then you take the four corners, and normally you will wrap it over your head. Now, there are different customs. There are some who will just wrap it over, and like a curtain, just close off, and they'll do this. You'll see that among the Hasidic community. However, Sephardims don't do that. Normally, many Sephardims, Moroccans, Yemen, and so forth, will take the tzitzits, and normally before even wearing it, we'll take it and we'll cover the four corners, as it were. We'll take it like a scarf. You'll see that in the prayer book, Birkat Shalom, which I recommend those of you who are involved with utilizing Birkat Shalom, which is, I think, one of the best sidurins for those who are learning how to pray, because it has transliteration, as well as other blessings. And there are similar sidurins that has the transliteration as well as vocalization. And what they'll normally do is the following. They'll take the tzitzit, the talit. I'm here wrestling with mine, so no problem there. And of course, if you have the tefillins, they'll be worn after saying the blessing. They'll take the corners. I don't know if you can see this. They'll do this, and they'll wrap it like this. They'll take it and do the same thing like this. Some will then take it over and do it on the other side as well. Okay, so this is the beginning of the wrapping of the tefillin. It is the fringes. Keep in mind, it's the fringes on the four corners of the talit. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. Now, if you'll notice, my tzitzit does not carry the blue string. Reason for that, because it's still unknown for sure what is the ink that was used to make the blue tzitzit. There are some that now say, and they're committed, different opinions, that they know already what the blue string is, but not until the Mashiach comes do we necessarily have to do so. Now, the shorter fringes found along the two sides of many talitots, plural, are not tzitzits, but ornaments, and have no particular significance. It's this right here. See, oh, what a beautiful, has no meaning whatsoever. It is only through the talit worn during the prayer that the mitzvah tzitzit is observed. A devout or pious person will also acquire a small, called talit katan, that's usually worn inside, almost like the inside garment. Okay, it's not required, but it's recommended, especially for children, who's not required below bar mitzvah age to wear talit gadol, and thus they don't begin to practice that until they're 12 years old. Just about 6 months prior to becoming bar mitzvah do they start wearing a talit gadol. So normally when you have a talit gadol, it's a smaller one that's worn underneath, and it's almost like a t-shirt or a smaller shirt with four corners. Remember, the mitzvah still applies. If it has a four-corner garment, it has to go with tzitzits. And normally they will wear it, they will put it on, and they will say the blessing. And that blessing on the small talit katan is Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kedishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al mitzvot tzitzit. And there's the commandments of the tzitzit, where the other one is to wear we're commanded to wear or wrap ourselves with the tzitzit. So the difference between the gadol and the talit katan is that one is to wrap, it's the commandment to wrap, and the other one is the commandment to wear tzitzit. And this is why it says, Blessed art thou, Lord God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us with the commandments and commanded us concerning the mitzvah, the commandment of the tzitzit. This too is said only during the day and not at night. Now there are some opinions that will go beyond that and says, well, you could keep it on during the night. I'm of the opinion that no, it's wrong. It's only for the day and should be removed at night. You'll see many kids wearing it during nighttime, even to bed, but they will not be able to say the blessing the following day unless they temporarily take it off and wear it again and say the blessing again. Where the tzitzits or even one of the four corners of talit are cut off or completely they're not at the same mark, it's considered pasul. It should be no longer used and should be replaced. A person who knows how to wrap the tzitzits on there, put in the corners, should put it on there. If you don't know how to do it, take it to someone who does. In this way, you fulfill your commandment. Specific instruction as to how the tzitzits are tied to the talit are not found in the written Torah, but rather are handed down by the oral Torah, and the Shulchan Aruch describes it in detail. This is a lot of mystical and symbolic meaning attached to the procedure. For example, the 39 windings that goes into making each of the four fringes equal to the numerical value of the Hebrew word, the Lord is one, Adonai Echad. And here we have, you might say, the garment that we use for prayer. And in our next video, we are going to look at prayer and what that involves as we're equipped and ready to go in the morning. Now keep in mind, tefillins we do not wear during the Chol Moed, according by Sephardic tradition, which means we only wear the prayer talit or the tallet during Chol Moed, but not the tefillin. If you have any questions, feel free to give me a call or contact me at rabbiotero@yahoo.com. Shalom, shalom, and Shabbat shalom.